all. Today I want to talk to you a little bit about the annotated bibliography assignment. So if you go to modules and then to major essay assignments, you're going to find it. You scroll down, you've done essay number 1, you're possibly working on essay number 2 right now, or when you're looking at this video, you're done with essay number 2 and you are ready to rock and roll the annotated bibliography. We click on this, and here we have the assignment sheet. I'm going to go over first. You need 3 sources for this. 3 sources for the annotated bibliography. It is due July 24th, so it's coming up, not this week, but next week. You are going to have 3 sources and an annotation paragraph. So you're going to develop an annotated bibliography that summarizes and evaluates credible outside sources relevant to your topic for essay number 3, the problem solution. So it could be a source or 2 that you use for essay number 2. And you might want to be adding to that with finding a 3rd source that's going to help you articulate and explain and analyze the solution. Your goal here is not to report on each source in depth, but rather to summarize the main points of each source and explain how you can use it in your essay. Sources required. So you need 3 sources, some of which could be a book. But for this shortened class, 5 weeks, I'm not expecting you to read a whole book on your subject matter. If you have one and you want to make sure it's credible, please shoot me an email. But 3 sources do need to be like all credible, not like credible doesn't mean non-biased. It just means it's credible. And I'll talk more about that in a second. And we have modules talking all about that. You also need 1 or more scholarly peer-reviewed source. So in a little separate video later this week, I'm going to tell you exactly how to find the peer-reviewed sources in just a quick 5-minute video. Whereas sometimes on the modules, it's a little bit longer, but all the information is already up. I'll just show you some tips and tricks. You are welcome to have more than one of those above linked sources, but you have to have at least 1. So credible websites are usually .edus, .govs, credible.orgs. Not all organizations are going to be credible. So you need to be looking at who is writing it, where is their funding coming from, is it too biased? Do they have like too much of, are they trying to support something because they got a lot of funding for it? So be thinking some questions about credibility. Mainstream news sources, for the most part, are credible. Yes, again, some will have bias in them. You can note that they're biased one way or the other. They're not going to be perfect, but they are still credible. So I'm talking like New York Times, Washington Post, CNN. Like, yes, there's issues with all of them at times, but for the most part, by and large, they're very credible. We do want to stay away from like op-ed pieces or opinion pieces because those are written by people who have like really strong interests and they might not always be completely fact-checked or credible. They're writing just their opinion, not having it supported necessarily by facts. All sources, I'm going to say the word credible a lot more times. All sources must be credible and appropriate for an academic audience. And you can include more than 3 sources if you want, as long as they're appropriate and cited correctly in MLA format. Other requirements for this annotated bibliography. Your annotated bibliography is going to consist of a series of MLA works cited. 9th edition, I made a mistake there. I love it when I do this actually, so you can see me in live trying to edit. Yep, 9th edition. So sometimes reading out loud is your best way to edit. 9th edition, you see the citation examples and links in Canvas about this. Purdue OWL, Easy Bib, anything that helps make sure that it's accurate. You're going to include a brief summary of each source's main idea, the thesis that the author is writing, and main supporting points. You're going to include an explanation of how the source is relevant and useful for your essay. So I can use this source to support my point on blank, and it's useful because of that's how it's relevant. And be specific as possible. But I know you're in like the drafting phase, so you don't have to be quoting from your own work. You just are explaining to me how it could be relevant. And I'm going to give you, show you examples for this. And then a description of the type of source. So is this a scholarly article that we found on Reynolds' website? Did we find this in Google Scholar as opposed to just regular old Google search? Did we find it from a newspaper or magazine? Is this from a book? Like maybe it's part of a chapter of a book. So tell me like where we got it from, and tell me how we know it's credible. So like what resource did you use to find this particular source? Which database, which search engine? How again do we know it's credible? So if I'm telling you that all peer-reviewed articles that we find through Reynolds' website are going to be credible, then you can tell me that. I know this is credible because I use EBSCOhost, and therefore it came from an academic journal, and thus it's credible. Grading. This is 50 points. I'm going to be looking at the quality of your sources. I am going to be looking at the quality of your summaries and descriptions, the number of sources it contains. So you put 3 in there, bam, that's a check. If you put less than 3, there's going to be points deducted. The format of your citations, so you use correct MLA format, and the description of credibility and indication of where you found it. So to give you more help for this, in essay assignments, we're looking at annotated bibliography. I have example annotations. I'm not going to click on that one. You can feel free to, but you're going to note that there is a color-coded annotated bibliography that I say must check out, and you click on it right here. And this is only going to provide you with 2 sample annotations, but these are the same ones from the examples. These are done perfectly, and I have labeled, like I have color coded it. And so I wanted to really briefly tell you why I color coded it. All those components I just went over in the assignment sheet, you need to have that to score a 50 out of 50. And trust me, folks, it is pretty easy to score a 50 out of 50 if you're following all of these components. So this light yellow up here, that's the MLA citation of your source. Underneath that, in a paragraph, you have all the other aspects I'm asking for in this assignment. In the blue is the summary of the article's main thesis and like their ideas. Note how small that is. This is probably a 7 or 8 page article. So this person has really summarized it in just a couple of lines. They aren't going into detail. They're not quoting from it. If you do quote from it, you need to properly cite, but they don't have to. Then, so that's the blue. Then we go into like the orange or different color yellow, depending on your screen. This article is useful to my research because it provides useful facts about the vaccine and HPV. They're describing how it's useful for their research for their paper. This is what you have to do. Look, it's only 2 or 3 sentences. You can model it and use this as a template. Hint, hint, nudge, nudge. Obviously, we're not copying the same words, but you can start yours off with, this article is useful to my research because, fill it in. Explain it. And in the very last line, don't copy and paste this one, but use it as a template. I found this source using what? Tell me what you used. And the magazine or this article or New York Times or Time or whatever it is a well-known and credible news source. Period. Bam. Done. Let me go on to annotation number 2. You have to do 3 of these. And here we have it. You have that MLA citation. Note also, in annotated bibliographies and in works cited pages, we make sure that it's alphabetized. All right, so here we have the MLA citation. That's in the light yellow. Then in blue, we have a summary, just a couple of sentences long. Then in the orange, we have how this is going to be useful. Some parts of this article, so not all of the article might relate exactly to what you're talking about. So you could say some parts of this could be really helpful in the background section, or in a counter argument section, or when I'm discussing problems with this. Like, just tell me what you're thinking and how you can use it. Then the last one, I found this journal through the library database, ProQuest, or EBSCOhost, or opposing viewpoints. However you find it, tell me. And it is a scholarly, academic, peer-reviewed source. Bam, done. Then you would go on to annotation number 3 for you, and then bam, completely done. Check it over, submit, and you're done with your annotated bibliography. Let me know if you have any questions.